Market your brand and personalize your message. Brand Squad opens doors to new ideas, helping to grow your business with smarter marketing. Thousands of promotional items, thousands of ideas. Turn prospects into customers with Brand Squad's memorable promotional products. Simple marketing, effective results. We do the thinking. You do the winning. Brand Squad, on point with your promotional products.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tiki Hut Studios. We are in studio today. I am your co-host, Mr. Ken Rose, on the Joe Knows Show, and here's the host.
Welcome to Joe Knows with Ken Rose and Lisa too. Unfortunately, we don't have the lovely Miss Lisa today. Our eye candy is missing. She's under the weather.
She is under the weather.
So we gave her the day off. Generous that we are. I think we'll double her bonus for today.
And as you can see, Joe and I are always on vacation. So, but over the next few weeks, we'll be broadcasting from some of the most famous beaches in Florida. Right behind us here, you can see Joe and I are at beautiful Clearwater Beach.
That's right.
Just a couple of hours left of here, or right of here, depending on which direction I'm facing.
A beach I promise never to wear my Speedo at.
No Speedos,
No
Joe.
Speedos.
We know the Speedo rule around here.
Somebody asked me this morning if I was wearing a Speedo. I said, you'll never know.
Oh, boy.
Hey, I love that tune. I'm warming up to a lot of our music. Some of our music I still think is a little out there for me, but I love that one. I don't know. It just kind of makes me want to get on my get my funkadelic.
Get the show rolling.
Yeah, get the show rolling. Were you a fan of funk?
Yeah,
As a music genre?
Yeah. I mean, the funk. Well, funk comes in a variety of packages, but Rick James.
Yeah.
Like that.
Even the stuff before that.
All that heavy bass stuff.
The heavy bass stuff.
Wild Cherry, bump, 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 bump.
Came out of the
bump,
70s.
bump,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Funk, Chic and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because funk, I guess, went into disco.
Something else.
Yeah. Well, it came into disco, I think.
Do you know what's really cool about funk is that funk had a time in the 70s, the early 70s, where it was really popular as a music genre, kind of up there. And a lot of it because of Soul Train and
Shaft.
And Shaft.
Shaft.
But here's the thing. I was really surprised to find out that as a genre, funk is still very popular, but it's just not in that pop style. It's not like rock and roll where you're going to hear. It doesn't get a lot of the branding and advertising, and that's kind of the cool vibe to it. You can still find good funk, especially from places like New York, L.A., in the bigger cities. Because those guys have been around forever. They won't get paid a lot of money, so they go to the bigger places.
Well, even reggae's got that kind of funk.
It does. And they're very much married.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
Very bass heavy.
Which
is great.
Heavy. Yeah. It makes you just
want to groove.
You don't have, you can, with funk, you can do the white guy overbite. You know what the white guy is.
Yep, that's right.
That's the white guy overbite. Doesn't matter what my hips do.
That's right.
It's all in the shoulders and the neck. Gets harder and harder as I get older.
Hey, man, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun?
I actually worked in the garden a lot.
Did you?
I worked in the garden a lot. I managed to I've been working because, I was sick for 6 weeks.
Right.
And I lost a lot of time, stuff that I might spend an hour and a half out there doing over the course of 6 weeks, 2-3 times a week, got held up. And I've got and I'm doing a lot of experimenting this year. Mm-hmm. Patty and I are hoping to buy a house.
Right.
And, we're working on that. I mean, if we can find one in my price range. And because, although I'm a realtor, I am not wealthy. I'm not dropping, $700,000 on a house that's only worth $5.
Well, you know what? I funny you mentioned real estate today because sometimes we talk about real estate. And I was reading an article, and it wasn't until 1968 that the Federal Housing Administration finally allowed women to use their salaries.
Oh yeah,
to buy houses. Mm-hmm. But if you look deeper into that change, the crap that went on, where these bankers, they would sometimes make couples write letters that they will not have children. That,
Oh, yeah.
or they would require the wife to be on birth control in order to accept her salary as a mortgage, or sterility. And it was up to the bank officer to determine if the woman was going to go back to work after she had a child, and it was so draconian.
Here's the thing, it always comes down to qualifications. I mean, how many bank officers checked with that family 2 years later?
Right. Well,
we're going to rescind your mortgage. You got four rugrats running around.
Well, I mean, and I know mortgage officers do a phenomenal job. So I'm not. I have nothing against mortgage officers. Underwriters, I've never met an underwriter. I don't think they really exist. But the whole qualification process really sucks because 9 out of 10 people that buy a home and qualify for a home, the day after they close, they got 2 brand new cars in the driveway, jet skis, boats,
furniture,
rooms to go is coming by their house 3 times a day. Amazon's there. So it's such a farce.
The fence guy.
Yeah, the fence guy is there. The pool guy is there.
All of that gets financed.
It's all financed. So to me, the easiest way to approve people for a mortgage is if they've had a good rental history, give them a mortgage.
And it's really funny because
I know we're in real estate, but
we're in real estate.
I get hot
and
and
we don't want to we talk about real estate a lot, but that's again, it's one of those things that's in an industry that's skewed. I mean, for instance, our industry is broken. And part of the reason our industry is broken is the National Association of Realtors. Because they make all of their money not on the success of people who join, but on the number of people.
It's all about numbers.
It's the brokerage concept. And don't get me wrong, I love my current brokers, but I've had 4 really bad brokers. I had 3 really bad brokers and 1 who was okay. Darlene and Steve are great. I love them to death. That's why I work with them, because they are the real deal. But they're the exception to the rule.
Right.
Well, and you know, I mean, the exceptions to the rule, where their focus is the success of their agents, right?
Correct.
They're not Darlene and Steve, and this is the industry itself would be better, not just as a realtor, but as home buyers, if somebody would find a way, and trust me, I'm working on, I'm thinking about it all the time. How do you make that change, right?
Right.
But it's brokers make money in general based on the number of realtors they have. They have they almost have, I call it the Olive Garden mentality. I worked for Olive Garden, and when I went to work for Olive Garden, they pretty much, if you had a pulse and you could read the menu, you could get hired.
Right.
And they would hire you, and they would train you for a couple of weeks. At the end of a couple of weeks, they'd say, at one point, and I had a restaurant, a coffee shop. At one point, I knew I had to hire 3 people to get 1 decent one, because I knew 2 just weren't going to work out. But Olive Garden, when I went to work for Olive Garden, I was like, they hired 15 of us one day. Literally 2 weeks later, there were 4 of us left. 2 weeks after that, it was like me and 1 other guy, and we were desperate for a job.
but it's interesting. I mean, my brother did a post last night, and one of his businesses, he has 3 managers. And he's always have to do more or whatever. So what he finally decided, something brand new, was he asked all 3 of his managers to list every employee in order of the job that they do. Not their job title, but does this person do a good job, great job, all the way down to the bottom, so that this way he's got 3 managers giving 3 reviews, and it's not a major thing, so that he can eliminate the weakest people and bring new people in.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Do and I got to say, you and I talked about this earlier. I've, in all honesty, do you have one of those little coupons in hand? Reachable. So Ken and Lisa, at a couple of events I was at, gave away a co-branding with his brother, Bagel Brothers. And is it Bagel Brothers or Bagel Bros?
Well, it's Bagel Brothers, but they shorten it to Bros because otherwise the sign would be like 30 feet long.
I thought that was something about the big chain. No,
like Bagel Bros. It was just they shortened it up because it was just easier for logos.
I like it. Yeah. Anyways, so I had a couple of these coupons been kicking around in my glove compartment for couple of weeks, and Miss
least.
Pat's put me on Dave Ramsey. When I was cleaning out the car and came across these, and I really needed to eat something one morning, and I was like, oh man, I've been meaning to do this. I went down there, so that was last week. I used 2 of them. Stopped by today, and I gotta say, you go in this place, and it is hard to tell that it's not a big national chain. If you didn't know better, you'd think this was just one of 700
Sure.
up and down the East Coast. And it comes even as far as the young man who was waiting on me. I ordered a garlic bagel. Can you tell? Should I?
No, I
cover up?
can't tell from here. Thank God. We got that. Must have that
Yeah, must
invisible
have that
plexiglass.
invisible plexiglass.
What the hell's going on? Face that way, Joe.
He went to check. He left his register, went over to check to make sure he had the veggie cream cheese that I ordered. He came back and he says, we don't have the veggie cream cheese. I'm terribly sorry, but we do have chives, which is in the veggie cream cheese. So I did that. And I was just impressed with the training that did. I mean, if you go to a lot of places, and I won't name them just because I don't want to get a cease and desist order. National chains, they would have taken that order. I would have paid for it. And then they would have told me after the fact, oh, we don't have that.
Upgrade, cross-sell, whatever you can do.
That's right. Yeah. But this guy was like totally in, and I don't know. That's in today's market. You see a lot of counter people, and that's impressive. And that comes down to doesn't just say a lot about the young man, but it says a lot about the organization that he would be willing to do that.
Sure. Speaking of cease and desist, that brings up a sore subject in my spine. On last week's show, because obviously we broadcast live on Tuesdays, but we really don't put the show out there till Wednesdays. And somebody reached out to me, and because they had heard from somebody else that somebody was unhappy with what I had mentioned, and so I decided to edit myself. And then I thought about it more, and I'm like, Joe, why am I censoring myself? I didn't do anything negative towards the sponsor, nothing negative towards the event, nothing negative towards really anything. But what happened was we were talking about food, and I didn't like a particular product that we had. And I didn't know at the time that it was donated. I didn't know at the time that there were sponsors behind it. I didn't know anything other than the person that I communicated with originally said that they were going to the grocery store to buy what they need. So that's all I knew, and that's all Joe knew. And because I was negative about the product, I got some pushback. And instead of being negative about a product, let me just say this. If I'm having a hot dog, it's an all-beef hot dog. It's a Nathan's Famous. It's a Hebrew National. It's a Sabrett. It's a Ballpark. Because I want damn all-beef hot dog. And I know red meat's bad for you, but damn it, I want my hot dogs, and I want them the way that I want them. And if it's something subpar, I don't want it on my grill. I don't want it in my house. And that's just... Lisa and I went to a restaurant in town, and I thought it was absolutely awful. And Lisa thought it was absolutely awful. But every other person I know that's been in that restaurant raves about it. So I had two choices. I could go on the air because luckily I have a vehicle to be able to get out there and pitch what's on my mind. And like a lot of the keyboard cowboys, I got to rant about this. I said, you know what? Their food must be great because people love it. It's just not my cup of tea.
Right.
And I left it at that. It's that simple.
Because a lot of things will affect that. Look, here's the thing about this subject, okay? Ken and I have both agreed to edit this out. Mm-hmm. And, our intent is not to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't do this to piss people off. But frankly, we have both stewed on this for a week, mm-hmm. and we realize off.
Yeah, I mean...
And what really irritates me about this is we heard this from not a third party, but like a fourth party.
Right.
So look, I'm going to tell you right now, Ken and I are going to make a guarantee to you. We are never going to edit content again. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen. Okay? When we do editing, it's to make the show flow better.
Correct.
So if you have a complaint, if you have a gripe or a criticism or some way to make the show better, you are welcome to call us directly, come visit us directly, have a cup of coffee, or even better, come on the show. So I will tell everybody from now on, if you got people complaining to you about something we did, then you need to tell those people, call us directly. And as a matter of fact, that's in the Bible. It's in James. Read it if you want to figure it out. So I'm not irritated at these people. We're more irritated at ourselves because of our reaction to the complaint. We're not here to make any enemies, but frankly, I like to say we're not here to make friends. What we're here to do is to inspire a little bit. It's to talk about things other people might not talk about. And today's episode, notwithstanding, we tend to avoid the news, but this week is just...
There was just
so much. It's just too hard to avoid.
So much news.
So anyways, look, if you had a problem with something we did, give us a call. Don't call anybody else. And frankly, this is my attitude when I go to church. This is my attitude in business. If I hear something from somebody, I ignore it. And I'm almost ashamed of myself that we didn't ignore it.
Yeah. We mentioned no names, but you know what? Joe's right. Come on the show.
And here's the best part. We didn't know at the time that we did what we did, we weren't aware that somebody had made a donation. We still don't know who it is.
Right. We still don't know.
And we're not looking into it. Look, so don't get us wrong. If you have a problem with us, come on the show. At least give us a call and have a cup of coffee. Explain yourself to face, and I promise I won't slap you.
But if you slap us, we're pressing charges. No, Joe's absolutely right. I was running South Lake Little League years ago, and people would complain from time to time. Why do you do it this way? Why do you do that? Why is the food prices the way they are? And I would tell people, I'd invite them and come to a board meeting. Come see what we do. Come see how all of these things happen first before you start complaining.
Right.
And I was always open. People say, well, why is a hot dog $2? Well, here's why. This is the cost of the because again, talking about food and Joe's been in the restaurant business. I visit a lot of restaurants. So a lot of times people say, well, we're on hot dogs. We're going to talk about hot dogs because I love hot dogs. A hot dog costs 30 cents. So why are you charging $1.50 or $2 or whatever the number is? But we all forget that you have the cost of the hot dog, the cost of the bun, the cost of the wrapper to put it in, the mustard, any of the toppings that you get on it, the cost of
and you better not miss a topping. You better have them all available, even if even if 1 out of 100 guys only uses that one.
We have it.
You got to have it.
You've got the cost of the fuel to fire up the griddle or the grill to cook it. You have to pay the staff. You have the overhead of electricity, the rent, and everything else baked into the cost of that 35-cent hot dog.
Plus, you have to have some profit.
Plus, you got to make some money.
And because generally when you're selling something, you're trying to either make money or raise money.
Right.
I used to see this when I owned my coffee shop. People always say, well, coffee's so cheap, it costs you 3 cents to put something in that cup. Yes, it cost me 3 cents to put a brewed pot of coffee in that cup. However, the creamer cost me money. The sweetener cost me money. The cup, and I mean, we're talking 20 years ago, the cup cost me 50 cents. Oh, another 4 cents for that lid. Because last time I checked, you couldn't do this, and that was long before the trend of bringing your own cup in. Nobody carried their own.
Right. Well, plus the expense, Joe would fly his wife Patty to Hawaii to forest the coffee in the Kona fields and fly it back. So there was a lot of added expense.
It's funny though because I had my roaster was in California,
right,
and I specifically had to find a roaster that wasn't going to make the nasty coffee the way everybody else. I was trying to stand out. So I had to find somebody. You ever go someplace, you get a flavored coffee, you haven't put anything in it, and you notice that little bit of oil floating on the top? That's because of the flavorings.
Oh.
Coffee has some natural oil,
Right.
but most coffee roasters use flavored oils to flavor the coffee. So you actually don't have any blueberries in a blueberry flavored coffee, right?
It's a sugary product.
It's a sugary product, and it's usually oil or syrup. But that's the things nobody anticipates. And I got to tell you, I feel bad for restaurants today.
Right.
I mean, I went to a local place, Texas Roadhouse. Because I love Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah, I do too.
And they're local. I know it's a big chain, but they have one of those systems where the manager is a partner operator. He's invested into the business, and he's a local member of our community. Paul and his wife, Vanessa. I think it's Paul and Vanessa. I'm pretty sure it's Paul and Vanessa. If I got your name wrong, let me know.
Yeah.
But the thing is, their prices, we went there, we hadn't been there in several months, and their prices are a bit higher. And I mean, the cost of beef, right? It's people say, well, why are cows more expensive? Well, the cows
They have
a
union.
But cows are more expensive because it costs more to get them to the places that process the meat. It costs more to feed them. Dairy farmers are having to increase their prices because of the anticipated shortages or increases in the things that they use to feed their cows. Don't kid yourself. A lot of this shortage stuff is going to come back to bite us.
Well, Joe, as you know, and many people have commented on Facebook that there is no need anymore for farmers because most people state that they get their corn and soybean right at the grocery store.
Right at the grocery store.
So why would you have farmers? And that's why our country's the way it is.
That's right.
But no,
Let me ask you something. When you were a kid, do you hunt?
No.
Did you hunt when you were a kid? Did you have men in your family that hunted when you were a kid?
No.
Did you know people that hunted? Did you know hunting is a thing?
Yes. And in fact, my next door neighbors, they would go deer hunting. Yeah. So and they would hang their catch in the tree, and I'd go over there and they'd show me how they quarter up the deer or whatever they do with it, and
so
all that kind
when
of
I
stuff.
was growing up, you had people in the family. I mean, my dad was a dancer. We lived in the city. Okay, so that we didn't go hunting much,
right?
But we did get to go stay at the hunting cabin when my uncles went hunting, and the whole family was there, and it was a good trip. I mean, we learned about things like weapons and hunting. Then I was talking to somebody recently, and they were telling me about how many people are going to, you always get those people that think the end of society's come. Look, it's going to get rough for a little while.
Right.
It's going to be expensive. Economy's going to be weird. But I can guarantee you one thing. Over the next 20 years, a lot of stuff's going to change. That's a guarantee. I can't tell you it's going to be good. Can't tell you it's going to be bad. It's going to be different in 20 years than it is now.
Cows and things like that.
But here's the thing. I grew up knowing that if I was really hungry, I had to process meat. And when I was in the Marine Corps and they weren't shipping supplies in and we were a little short of fresh meat, well, there were a couple of goats and maybe a dog or two that
it didn't make it home to mama.
It didn't make it home to mama. And, but that's that concept of the snowflake is snowflakes can only arise in a wealthy, protected society. Because in every other society, I mean, how many snowflakes do you think are in Zaire? Zero. How many snowflakes do you think they have in Cuba? Zero. All right. And how many snowflakes do you think are in Ukraine today? Zero. Because these people are so concerned with survival, with making India. I mean, if you look at India, they don't have a snowflake culture because India is one of those countries in the world that has the greatest disparity between those that are poor and those that are rich.
That class system, don't they?
And they have a caste system. They also have an amazing middle class. There's a lot of people in India, and in India, the Indian government not good, bad, or indifferent on their method of government, but they've worked very hard over the last 35, 40 years to bring up their middle class and expand their middle class. But they don't have snowflakes because they're so concerned with feeding their family and surviving.
They have priorities.
They have priorities.
We just don't have priorities, and I'm not a hunter because nobody in my family ever hunted. Would I hunt? Absolutely.
Yeah, if you needed to.
Well, hunting isn't my thing only because, number one, I'm claustrophobic, so I can't sit in a stand. Oh, I'm claustrophobic and I'm afraid of heights. So I can't sit in a deer stand in a tree for 8 hours because I'd probably shoot myself after that time.
This is all perspective. There are other ways to hunt, right?
Well, yeah.
You don't have to sit up in a tree stand.
but like yesterday, I walked out my back door and my neighbor had 2 freshly killed turkeys. I was like, man, I always wanted to know, what does it taste like to get something that fresh? I mean, obviously, I've fished and I can fillet fish and throw those right on the grill or whatever. But I always wondered about meat, to get it that fresh, be able to cook it right away, and what would that be like?
See, but fishing and processing a fish is very much. I mean, it's a little smaller scale, depending on the size of the fish, but it's the same process. It's
Correct.
getting your hands in there and dealing with
Clean it out.
life at its basic.
Sure.
Right. I mean, I have not hunted. Actually, the truth is, I have not gone hunting since I came back from Beirut for obvious reasons, right?
Sure.
I mean, it just, I actually had one of my children asked me when they were teenagers, I was like, son, after you've stalked a man, stalking a deer just doesn't have the same.
It's not shooting back.
It's not shooting back.
But no, it's definitely, I could definitely do it. I mean, I don't think about Bambi and crap like that. But I think that goes back to, like, you talked about hunting, like military. Now, nobody that I know, I know like a second or third cousin that was in Vietnam, but nobody in my direct family, grandparents, parents, were in the military, so it was never a thought process for me to go to the military. But I look back now and I'm like, that would have been a good experience, whether it was military, law enforcement, fire, things like that. So,
I think it comes down to, though, that I use that example to say that, one of the things the military did do for me, that experience that combat did for me, was give me an idea of what is important. I mean, it changes. We talked about priorities, but it changes perspective, right? When my kids were young, I sent them on missions trips, not because we were religious, but because I wanted them to see how other people in the world lived. Purpose. And it was funny that all of my children, who are amazing people now, they're great people, they come back and they all came back with the idea. And I didn't send them on mission trips where they're going to like babysit the missionary's child in, Sweden, right? I sent them to missionary trips in India, in Colombia, in actually Dominica, places like that.
Right.
And they saw real poverty.
Sure.
They saw, I can remember one of my sons talked about coming back and how he was changed by the guy that was moved, that they had given him like this $140 cooktop walkish sort of thing, so he could be a street. And what that did was, it didn't just allow him to cook for his family, but he could now pack it up and bring it to the marketplace and support his family.
Correct.
It was the tool to survival, and it changed him in that it never occurred to me, Dad, that and I mean, these people that he sees are living in, I mean,
no running water.
When we think huts, we think grass shacks like tiki, but a lot of these places in poor countries are made out of cardboard or press board,
right? Old pieces of wood, lumber,
whatever they found.
Sure.
The floor, you don't sweep the floor because the floor is dirt.
It's the earth. That's
it's the
what
earth.
you got.
And so it's that neat perspective of, they come back and they go, whoa, we have it pretty good. Of course, they're teenagers. That effect will only last about 3-4 months. But when they become adults, and go to college, they have a completely different.
It's a different
mindset.
perspective. It's like, I always, like taking the kids to serve Thanksgiving dinner instead of
right.
It's all of those things, But
As a matter of fact, my kids and I used to do a Thanksgiving dinner at our church for people, and we did it for many years. And it's really funny that their perspective changed. They don't expect, even when it's just a family now, they don't expect to sit on their butt and watch football.
Right.
It's like, who's doing what?
Right.
Okay?
Everybody's
hands are in.
And it's much more rewarding,
is.
to be helpful. It's it's all of those things.
It's all of those things. All right. Anyways, so we promise we will never again edit ourselves.
Hell no. Sons of bitches, no.
And we actually hope several of you come and complain to us and end up on the show.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, nothing's really off topic. And speaking of topics, I know it's all over the news. Nobody knew the Oscars were on the other night.
It's true.
It's like, was there an Oscar award show until the incident? And I know, Joe, I know people are divided. Again, another stupid thing that people in this country need to be divided about. What did he do the right thing? Did he do the wrong thing? Should his wife have slapped him? Should he just have punched? All of these things. And I think that how do I say this? If I needed to defend my wife or my child, and it was a spur of the moment thing, I don't know what my reaction would be. I don't know if I would yell back. I don't know if I would, hit somebody else out of a reflex or whatever it is. Nobody knows. So I think so many people have opinions, and I think until you're put in that situation, you have no idea. And I'm going to give you a great example. Had to be about 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I'm in Metro West in Orlando, and I'm robbed at gunpoint. At gunpoint, I'm getting some stuff out of my truck, and I turn around, and there's a guy with a gun in my face. Give me your wallet. I'm like, oh, get out of here. He says, no, I'm serious. Give me your wallet. Oh, and give me that cell phone you just threw down there. And I handed it to him. No big deal. I wasn't upset. I wasn't mad. I was none of those things. Oh, here it is. And then he ran off. And it wasn't until I got back upstairs to the apartment and broke down. And I was like, oh, my God, I could have been dead. So my immediate reaction is, got to get a gun. Got to get a gun to protect myself. So I reached out to Orlando Police, and this is my situation, and they have the whole thing, and they know who the guy is, they know where the guy is because they have my cell phone, but of course the police can't do anything because he's being protected by his mother, is this and that and the other thing. So I asked the police officer, I said, well, what would my rights be if I had a gun? So the police officer says, well, first of all, as soon as you pull that trigger, you're responsible for that bullet. Wherever it goes. If you miss him and it goes through somebody's window and you kill somebody, you're going to prison. He said, if he is running away, you're no longer in harm's way. You're going to prison. If you shoot him before he shoots you and he's facing you, you could go to prison. Mm-hmm. So, when all that was said and done, I did get my concealed weapon permit because I felt that if I ever have to protect my family, if somebody breaks into my home, I want to be able to do that. But again, until you're in a situation, you don't know what you'll do. I probably could have grabbed the kid and the gun out of his hand, and I don't know if the gun was real or not, but who knows? So it's easy to critique somebody for what they did. Was it right? Was it wrong? But until you're in that situation, you never know.
It's really funny in our society. I mean, what's really funny is you have to be careful because, I know as a man, I'm terribly careful what I say around women.
Absolutely.
I'm terribly careful when I'm with women to not be with women alone. And I know that sounds nuts, but it's the world we live in. So I don't want anything to be if I'm going to pray for a lady, heck, I do it for men. If I'm going to pray for a man, I ask them, may I touch your shoulder?
Sure.
Right? And it's the world we live in. In that situation, I mean, if you'd had a gun and you'd have shoot him,
Who knows?
I mean, you could be on national news. You could be fighting for your life, for defending your life.
Or do I live with that if I killed him?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, he got my cell phone, which is no big deal. It's replaceable. And I had like $5 or $10 in cash in my wallet. So he got that and a gas card or two. And by the time I got back to the house,
Had to be irritating when the police told you that his mother was protecting him. What does that have to do with it? Go get the phone. Go get the kid.
It's just the way that the law is, or it's crazy. But,
I was in a church some years ago, and there was this big thing where everybody started buying guns for whatever. And we were up in Leesburg, so it's not like the crime central. So everybody's buying guns, and this is in a church, and all these people in my men's group were buying guns. They're training their wives, taking their wives to the range, at safety courses. Everybody's buying guns. They're buying all these guns, handguns, and they're all talking about how well, And I, with my experience, I'm like, you got to look at somebody when you shoot them, right? I mean, that's something you don't forget,
right?
And they're all like, well, protect my family and, come into my house. And about 4 months later, okay, so this all dies down a little bit. Everybody's all happy and got their guns. And about 4 months later, we get a bear problem in the area. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, people are getting scared because bears are coming up on the porches. And
we're taking over their property.
Yeah, they're coming into garages and getting in the trash. And I'm listening to these guys talk about looking out the window at the bear, and they're so terrified, and they didn't know what to do. And I'm like, wait a minute. Aren't you the guy that got like a 357 Magnum long barrel like 4 months ago?
All
You're telling me you have 400 rounds? Put 3 or 4 of them in the bear. I'm pretty sure he's going down. And they looked at me and went, oh, we shoot a bear, we'll get in trouble. And I'm like, aren't you the same guy that was talking about shooting a person?
Sure.
Well, yeah, but I'm defending my family. You're going to be in trouble. You pull that trigger. Look, here's the deal. There is some mentality that if you're in the right, you're going to be I defended myself. Or the cop isn't allowed to do that. I used to teach this to my children. Look, just because a police officer isn't allowed to do something, you might run across the one that does it anyways. And you might actually not go to prison.
Correct.
But you're going to go to jail, and you're going to have to, and it's the same way with pulling a trigger.
Right.
You pull that trigger on a person, you can expect to be arrested, you can expect to be arraigned, you can expect to spend several months in jail. If you get a bond,
right,
you can expect, well, depending on how popular your crime is and who picks it up in the news.
Well, if it's castle doctrine and somebody is inside your house,
you're still going to get investigated.
Yeah, you're still going to get investigated anyway.
But
you can still protect, but you have to be cautious.
It's that concept. And again, I use the example of the police because you hear so many of this, oh, well, he can't do that. Well, he has, he carries a gun and a stick and has a license to use it called a badge. He may eventually get in trouble if you can prove he did something wrong.
Right.
But the point is, if you're just respectful, your life is going to get miserable for a long time, for a while.
but I think that's like what we're getting back to. Until you are in a situation where you have to make a decision, like we saw on the Oscars, you don't know what you're going to do. You should not tell people, well, he should have done this or he shouldn't have done that. I think that it's up to the individual, and you know what? You have to pay the consequences for the choices that you make. I just think that's the deal.
I think one of the reasons people are so fascinated with this is because because people ask themselves, I mean, it was a weird thing.
Right.
It was, it took a while too. I mean, he didn't just get mad, bam, it was over. He got up. It's like a minute and a half to walk up the stage, to get to him, to walk back to his seat. I mean, it's just weird.
Very weird.
It's one of those things where people think, what would I do? What would I do? It's easy to say what he should have done.
Right.
What both of them should have done. The question is, What would I do? I mean, and you and I were talking about this earlier. It's had Will Smith got up, taken his wife, and said, "This is inappropriate. I will not sit for this. I am out of here," and walked out.
Of course.
We'd be talking about comedy, what's happened to comedy, is it mean, is it appropriate, should
Sure.
we be worrying about it being appropriate, more of the Oscars thinking. And Will Smith would go down of course he's going to go down in history now,
Well, yeah.
but he's not going to go down in history the way I'm sure he would have wanted to, right? He would have gone down in history as a guy of character, defending his wife with no problem, giving up whatever might have happened. And here's the best part. Had he walked out and they read his name, they'd all been stuck,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. It's a reaction. It's a reaction.
But instead, instead of talking about all of those things, we're talking about, again, the analogy,
Right.
you and I were talking about earlier. I was telling Ken that when my kids were young, I would make the oldest the babysitter, and I would come back and he would have locked his his younger siblings in a room or hit them or something like that, and I'd be like, "Son, I left you here to make sure the house doesn't burn down and nobody bleeds. Okay, I didn't make
not
you the
the prison warden.
That's right. You're not the warden. You're the babysitter. Your
gosh.
purpose. But instead of us talking about them not listening to you, now we're talking about you locking them in a room.
Now you're in a sling.
Now you're in the sling. So
Oh, yeah, it's just too much. But look, it's just everything that's going on today. Everything is over analyzed. Overanalyzed. And then I saw Friday night. The drummer from the Foo Fighters. Died of an overdose, I guess.
welcome to rock and roll.
And again, what we all do is we analyze. Wow, buddy, he was successful, and he had a beautiful wife and 3 kids, and why would he do this? And we all want to analyze, and we all want it. We all want our answer. But if it's a mental health issue, it's a mental health issue, and it has to be addressed in those terms. And that way, he was great at his job, but as much as we all try to help people through mental health issues, I think that, I don't know. I deal with that a little bit now with somebody in my life, how to navigate, and I don't have the answers. It's difficult.
It is a mental health issue, but it goes deeper than and because I have a history of drug addiction. Mm-hmm. I really think it comes down to I had a friend that used to break this down and say it's all about self-esteem. I say it goes deeper than that. Mm-hmm. It is about self-esteem on the surface, but it comes down more to, I think, a spiritual issue. Somewhere deep inside you, there is something that is off kilter. Mm-hmm. My wife and I talk to codependents all the time, and we tell them, I know you think your life's going to get better as soon as you give up this person, mm-hmm. but you haven't fixed your picker.
Right.
You picked that person.
Yeah.
You weren't, I know that you didn't know for sure they did drugs, but there were other signs of the addicted personality. I think when you deal with somebody like the drummer to the Foo Fighters, is many of these people, celebrities in rock and roll, the people around them are as much of the problem. And it's the truth with almost any addict. There is somebody in an addict's life that is enabling that. And I deal with it, of course, because I'm a Christian, I deal with a lot of Christian families, and I have told literally thousands of times, family members, you have to stop rescuing them. Mm-hmm. Because as long as you want them to find Jesus, but as long as you're their savior, they don't need him.
Right.
And I know in my own life, when my wife finally drew a line, there came a point once I realized she was serious. She wasn't just drawing the line because she was mad.
It wasn't a movable line at that point, was it?
Well, it wasn't gonna disappear with the rains. Right? It was a line. It was a boundary. It was a fence. That put me in a spot to have to face some things. Mm-hmm. And then over the course of time and small changes, more things, as I learned more things and figured out more things, that I was able to come to a place where I've been clean and sober all these years,
mm-hmm.
And I just, when I was an addict, we didn't have the fentanyl problem. Fentanyl was something that came from big pharma, and it was used as fillers for actual opioid like surgical drugs. It didn't come in blocks from China
Right.
across the southern border. It wasn't used to cut things like methamphetamines and cocaine.
Yeah, it just but I think that's just.
But it is, but it's almost that much scarier.
Well, I think it's scary, but you know what? But it's all deadly. Lisa and I always catch this the show My 600-Pound Life, which is and
My wife's a favorite of that.
Well, and many of these people, because you mentioned about enabling, and many of these folks are bedridden. I mean, they literally can only get out of bed to use the restroom, and sometimes they can't do that, and you see the loving family around them that's running to the fast food store, that is taking, bringing them pizza and donuts and cakes and things and bottles of pop and soda, and they're enabling this person to get worse. But they think that, well, he's upset, let me help him.
Do you know?
I mean, and I don't know. You know more about addiction.
That frustrates me for just that reason.
Yeah.
It is because you're so. At least you have the person who's usually trying to get some sort of bariatric surgery, right? They're trying to do something. Right. They realize this is a problem. They can't continue, and it gets tough. And I've seen those shows, and the codependence is, well, what do you want me to do? I want you to stop throwing. We see it in mothers a lot and grandparents a lot. Dads are not as likely to be codependent, and I don't know if that's the difference between men and women are wired that women tend to nurture more. But we see this because when a woman addict has a child, generally that child in most instances is cared for by the mother of the. What ends up happening is the addict can get help so far, and when the person who's taking care of the child realizes they're going to have to give up the grandchild, then suddenly they get stupid codependent again. Like giving the money and stuff. My wife and I actually had somebody. Miss Pat can be Patty can.
Tough?
She could be tough, and she was married to me. She had to be, But we had somebody ready to go get help. We found a program that would take this woman and her child for an entire year and a half, teach her how to be a good parent, help her with the addiction issues. I mean, and it was out of the state, right? And of course, my wife and I are firm believers, pull an addict from their usual surroundings because if they're trying to get help in their usual surroundings, most hardcore addicts, they have too many connections, right? When I got help, I was in the middle of the swamps of. So they literally, the program had paid for a plane ticket, and the mother showed up to drop off the baby and pulled this woman aside and said, okay, I'll give you one more chance. You can move in the house. And my wife was so mad because it was the one back door this woman needed to not go get help.
Right.
And the mother actually said to Patty, well, what do you want me to do? She's my daughter. And Patty looked at her, tears in her eyes, mad. She said, I want you to love your daughter enough to want her to have a future.
Right. Wow.
And it's a hard thing. I'm not going to say it's easy. Right. It's tough to have somebody in your life that is suffering and you want to alleviate their suffering, but sometimes you got to let somebody suffer a little more. It's kind of like I had a friend of mine, a very good man in my life, and he used to talk about an experience he had when he was a kid where he started to get something on his leg, and he grew up very country and very poor. He was 5 or 6 years old. He started to limp because of this thing. He called it a boil of some sort, I'm sure. And his dad had Mom and his aunt hold him down on the kitchen table while Dad whipped out his trusty penknife and,
cleaned him out.
Boiled it, and he cleaned him out. And he said, I screamed and hollered, and Dad squeezed, and it hurt a lot. But, when it was all said and done, he healed up and he could walk fine, and that's
like Dr. Pimple Popper.
It is.
Slice and squeeze.
But that's really kind of a definition of helping people. Sometimes you have to let them feel a bit of pain.
Yeah, a little bit more suffering that you can alleviate.
A little more intense suffering so you can alleviate it later.
Well, what kind of great things we got going on, Joe? What's going on?
Actually, I got the coolest thing.
What you got?
Miss Pat is a Florida virtual school teacher. Yeah, we were kind of heavy today.
Ooh, what an episode.
What an episode.
This episode will be featured on Nova.
That's right. So she got this thing. This teacher is doing a project, and I'm hoping you can hear this. So I'm going to play this for you, and then we'll talk about it. Okay?
Bring her up to the mic.
Hi, welcome to Pep Talk, a public art project by Westside School. Bienvenidos a Pep Talk, un proyecto creado por los estudiantes de Westside School.
Para un mensaje feliz, presiona 5.
Please listen to the following options for encouraging messages. If you're feeling mad, frustrated, or nervous, press 1. If you need words of encouragement and life advice, press 2. If you need a pep talk from kindergartners, press 3. If you need to hear kids laughing with delight, press 4. For encouragement in Spanish, press 5. Be grateful for yourself. Dude, live it up. Be you. I trust that you can make things right. Be happy. Try it again. Believe in yourself. If you're feeling up high and unbalanced, think of groundhogs. It's okay to be different. Always stay together. Don't give up, power through. We all really like you. Never back down, never give up. Yeah. The world is a better place with you in it. Everyone is capable of doing anything. You just have to let yourself shine. Bro, you're looking great. Be responsible. Be nice. Choose weird. You are okay. We love you.
Okay, so that was the encouragement and life advice option. I just thought Patty played for me yesterday, and I really love it. It was put together by a school. We'll probably put this on the recording. We can put up the number. It's if you're watching live, you can try it. It's 707-998-8410. It was put out by as a school project. This kindergarten teacher did it, and of course Patty works for Florida Virtual School. It got disseminated through them. I figured we could give people, after such heavy subjects, we can give people something. It's all done by the kindergartners. So if you're having a rough day, call that number. I'm actually going to put it in my phone. I don't know how long it'll be active, but
very cool.
I thought that was a very cool thing. I was kudos to the teacher that thought that up.
I think some of the words encouragement, the things that stood out in everything they said was be nice. Just be nice.
Be nice. Be you.
And you are good enough.
You are good enough.
So I think those
you can do it.
Those are strong words. Those are very strong words.
Now, the cool thing is I've actually listened to this like 3 or 4 times.
Right.
And it's different almost every time. So I'm sure they had a big enough class.
Oh, I'm sure.
That they go through 10 or 12 of them. And I don't know, maybe kids each did 3 or 4 of them. But it is a little different each time, and the listening to the kindergartners laugh is kind of cool. And, remember we were talking about perspective, right? It's all about the kids coming behind us.
I agree, and again, be nice. People, it's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to say what you feel you want to say, but be nice about it. Your opinion is right for you. Other people's opinion is right for them. It doesn't make you folks enemies. It doesn't make you folks different. You're individual.
Do you know that's the cool part about debate? I know that some of the best conversations I ever had were with people I didn't agree with.
Correct.
You know, it's as crazy as it sounds. When I was young and into that, my best friends almost always ended up as somebody that I was in a bar fight in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody who came just rubbed me the wrong way or said the wrong thing. And of course, I was young and, you know,
Young and dumb, they say.
I started a lot of conversations with this, but many of those people, a good many of them, as a matter of fact, from my 20s to my 30s, most people that became very good friends of mine were people that I could not stand.
Yeah.
And it was because, although thankfully because of my experience in the Marine Corps, it did not lead me to judgment. It led me to other people live other ways. Not that the Marine Corps was touchy-feely, but you understand.
It's all irrelevant. You know, just because you are different from somebody doesn't make them better than you. It doesn't make them less than you. We're just different. And if all we do is just respect each other, everybody will be a whole lot happier. Because believe me, it's better to live here than most places around this globe, you know, so.
And that's why the founding fathers in the first half of this, first 2/3 of the history of this nation, debate was so important.
Mm-hmm.
Debate was a completely different thing. I mean, if you look up,
well, we don't debate now. We put down and we disgrace. We disgrace. We do not debate.
Yeah, we state what we feel is the truth. You know,
and it's our truth.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, it's funny that I had a Christian school. It was a Catholic school, but we actually had a class called debate, and there were rules to debate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had to stick to the subject.
Right.
You couldn't talk about the other guy's attitude or the way he said it.
Or his girlfriend.
Or his girlfriend. You know, and there was some value to that when I got later in life, was to realize that you can sway an argument, you know, if you just reason things out.
Absolutely.
There's if you are interested, you do some fascinating research on what a liberal arts education was 50 years ago, as opposed to what it is today. It was one of the overarching tenets was reason. Was how to reason out a subject, and that seems to be what we miss in those conflicts. Is have you ever talked to somebody and they say something, you walk away going, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard?
Yeah, but it's better to walk away and say it than to say it to their face. That's the dumbest thing you ever said. You know.
Unless you're my friend. You know, if you're my friend and I say something dumb, help me out.
Say, that's
okay?
a dumb thing to say.
Joe, that was really dumb.
Anyway, hey, on a positive note, I know that our governor signed a bill into law about requiring students to take a financial planning course.
Oh, I like that.
So instead, you know, rather than knowing how to split an atom, you'll know how to balance a checkbook. You'll know what credit scores are. You know what credit is. You'll know all of the tools that our students need to learn.
Is that high school or college?
That's high school. High school students will be required to take a financial planning course, which teaches them everything about that, mortgages and lending and all of those things that they need in real life. Because, you know, when I was in high school, my teacher said, you know, you're not going to have a calculator as an adult. We're going to be on the metric system. You're going to need to know geometry and trigonometry and algebra 1 and 2. And I'm like, oh, and calculus. I didn't realize calculus had no numbers in it until I got to college. And what? There's no numbers in this math? I must be in an English class. You know, and I've got my dictionary, my thesaurus, my calculator, my You know, everything I need right here. So my teachers, you were wrong, sons of bitches. Anyway,
I went to school. I went to school in the 70s, and they tried to get me to take. They encouraged us to take typing class.
yes, you
And
had
the
to.
idea
Yes, you
was
had to take
that
typing.
they
That's
take-
right.
Well, you could avoid it if you were slick, okay? And I was slick. I avoided it. I was like, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to go into the military. I had the plan. It was military, it was actor. I wasn't going to need to. And turns out, the world
all day
changed,
long.
and typing would have been nice 30 years ago, and I still don't. I've actually taken a couple of classes as an older person, but it's hard to rewire those. You pick up the skill, but you haven't been doing it for a long
Yeah,
time.
it's
I get by, but
I get by too. My dad, growing up, the one thing that my father was good at was typing, and I'd watch him type, and he'd be like, and not looking and looking over. I'm like, holy shit, how do you know where all the keys are? I'm still hunting and pecking every day.
my mom could do that. She could type. And
It's a different
watch
generation.
TV and
Yeah.
have a conversation.
If I type and have a
look down,
conversation, it's going to be Greek. Like, what did he just say?
It was absolutely amazing. But yeah, if you look into those are the sorts of things that you don't realize somebody needs until you're in your 30s. Right? Because you're like, man, how come I didn't learn this? It's so hard to learn now, I think one of the balance the checkbook, I think that every high school student in their junior or senior year should have at least one basic business course.
Yeah.
Just to understand that when I was in school, a business course was something like typing, stenography. It wasn't the concepts of business. The idea of marketing
we didn't
and
have any of
branding and profit.
None of that.
I think that America would do very, very well. Well, of course, in the 70s, if you got a bachelor's degree in business, it was all skewed towards you working for a corporation.
Right.
It's in one of the good changes is business degrees in the last 40 years have shifted far more towards the entrepreneurial as opposed to the corporate.
Right. But to really learn business, Joe, the ultimate business course is in Back to School with Rodney
That's right.
Dangerfield that tells you how you got to grease this guy's hand. That guy's
That's right. I love that movie. I love that scene in that movie.
if you've ever really wondered how to start and operate a business, you've got to watch Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School in the classroom where he's teaching the professor about all the palms you have to grease and all the loopholes you can avoid.
The best part of that scene is the professor's trying to call him out, like to make him stupid.
Right.
Because he's sitting there and the professor's saying stuff and he's rolling his eyes. And, doing
Typical
the whole
Rodney Dangerfield stuff.
Rodney Dangerfield. And then the professor says, well, why don't you teach this course? And he stands up and he says, okay, if you want the truth, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to do this. Why are you going to build a building? Why don't you just buy one? There are thousands of empty warehouses and this and this. Oh, yeah, and the Teamsters.
They're going to know about
They're
that
gonna want a
concrete
piece.
pouring.
That's right.
So it's just really funny. But
yeah, I think the governor. It's actually a good move in this
Right.
state. I gotta say, just my wife is a teacher. I think a move that he made that was necessary, but I don't think was completely thought through. Last year, he signed something into law that starting teachers would start at $45,000 a year. It leveled, so in the state of Florida, it doesn't matter if you're working in Polk County or Lake County or Orange County, you start at the same thing. The problem is my wife was getting paid in that range, but she'd been a teacher for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the gap between a starting teacher and her, where she works,
was pretty substantial.
was good $12,000, $13,000. Well, when they raised everybody up, they didn't raise her up. They gave her a $2,000 bonus because she had all that experience. And it almost feels like,
It's a screwy thing.
yeah, you want to attract the new teachers, but what about those of us who have been, because I'll tell you, you want to see the schools collapse? Get rid of teachers that have been teaching more than 10 years.
Right.
Watch it all fall apart. You need their perspective. You need their experience.
But what would be good though, because I would love to teach a high school business class.
Yeah.
Because I have more business experience than a teacher that took business classes. Because when you have no money in a business checking account, and you got to arrange to get things done. You have to figure out how to do those things.
right.
But anyway, what a great show, man.
Yeah.
Let's do your.
You know
go
what we
ahead.
should. You know what we should teach a class on. We should teach a class on free marketing. You need to market your business
for free.
for free. Well, all the things you can do, because there's a lot of stuff people don't realize that everybody thinks business. I actually heard somebody say, "Well, I'd like to do that, but it takes money to make money." And I said, "Well, if you're a little bit creative and willing to work, you can. I mean, yes, eventually you're gonna have to drop some investment, but you can make it happen."
Hey, look, this is free marketing.
This is free marketing.
So for my marketing minute, hey, Ken Rose with Minuteman Press. We design, print, and promote you, and you always have to market. We market every day. I'm thinking about marketing. I'm either thinking about marketing, doing marketing, or just finished up marketing. And this show is another free marketing tool. So I use it to market my company. Lisa uses it for Brand Squad. Joe uses it for, he's going to tell you about his company. And you have to have multiple marketing methods. So if you're using print, you need to do something else, whether it's social media, whether it's person to person, whether it's direct mail. And for those of you that are in the business leaders, we're going to have a special marketing class on Thursday. So you'll see me there. Here's my partner. He's going to tell you about what he does other than what he does. Go.
Well, as you all know, because I've talked about it so much, is I am with Remax Titanium. We talk about real estate a lot because that's my full-time gig. And I wanted to say that, if you're getting ready to buy or sell a house, talk to a realtor. Hopefully talk to me. Okay, but talk to a realtor, somebody with a little bit of experience. And I got to say this, although it goes against today's conventional wisdom. I was talking to somebody recently, and he said, "Well, I should have known they weren't very good. They only had 7 reviews." And I said, "Well, the hard thing about selecting a realtor by the reviews they have is that's only somebody who's focused on getting reviews. It doesn't necessarily tell you the best guy. Do they have experience? Have they done transactions? Are they a good fit for you? Do they have strategy?
Can you reach them?
Can you reach?
Or are you stuck with
pick
voicemail?
Up a phone.
Right.
If you leave a voicemail, how long till you get called back?
Mm-hmm.
I have listings. I call listings sometimes. These guys don't call me back for. If I want to show their house, and they don't call me back for 3 days, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So the thing is, you need to talk to, and that's my marketing minute. And I'm not even talking about working with a realtor. That's a decision you can make down the road. You should talk to one. And when you talk to that realtor, they should know what they're talking about. They should see the business. They should be able to talk intelligently about why prices are up. Why is it hard to get a loan? If they can't tell you why prices are high in depth, if they can't tell you why it's hard to get, why the requirements to get a loan are what they are, with in depth, with some intelligence, then you probably don't want them. Somebody said to me the other day, "Well, I got this guy who's going to do it for 3%. And I was like, "Oh, really? 3%? Buyer and seller side?" And they're like, "What?" I said, "Did they offer to do it for 3% for the whole commission? Or are they talking about 3%
Per side. Times 2.
which is 6%. Your challenge is, if it's only 3%, the question is, what are they not doing?
Right.
Are they going to split it in half? Because I'll tell you, a 2% commission on the buyer's side is becoming more popular and seen quite a bit. I don't know anybody that'll take somebody to see a 1.5% interest, or 1.5% listing. I mean,
I do. We just exactly.
I mean, it's almost my expenses by the time I get done with split. And I mean, again, you have to explain it to people. I get 6%, but that half or more goes to me. The rest goes to the buyer's side. Then I have my split with my broker. Then I have my expenses. I mean, I drop $500 to $1,000 on every listing before it ever goes live. And that, those are things that somebody should be able to talk about.
Right.
Right.
You got to go through. People think it's just easy. Oh, it's a hot market. Why do I need a realtor?
Yeah. And why do I need a realtor and why do I need to pay that? What do you get? I actually told the person, I'm not.
Right.
I advised them. I told them about the industry. I told them, my total commission is 6%, but in general, I'm going to get you, because I've been a realtor for so long and because I know what I'm doing, I have a strategy to get you literally the most money available. And if you're interested in that, give me a call. If you want to know about the real estate industry, give me a call. I'll bend your ear for an hour over a cup of coffee.
Well, there you have it. Hey, shout out to Lisa. Hope you feel better soon.
Oh, let's do a brand squad. Hang on. I'm going to pick.
Well, everybody knows Brand Squad. They're on point with your promotional products, thousands of items, thousands of ideas.
I got them staring at me right here. She did that last week. So what about, bags. Let's talk about bags. They have these tote bags. Look, tote bags are a great brand price for you, but for our friend Lisa, who is not here today, we're going to do a marketing minute. You should probably call Lisa and talk about what she can do on bags, because the reality is if somebody's carrying only action, then they're seeing your brand everywhere in that function. A place like Sips and Salsa, thing like South Lake, Taste of South Lake. If you're thinking about that, you should be talking to Lisa about getting branded bags.
Get your branded bags. And thanks for joining us again. We'll have some cool stuff next week. And
Banks is with us next week.
Oh, we're going to talk politics next week. I have a political thing to talk about next week, which is potential, but we're not going to get into that tonight. But anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on The Jono Show.
See you next week. Bye-bye. And I love you. Give him some air guitar.
Little air guitar.